Hello students. In the previous lecture, we started off with our economic syllabus of class 11. We commenced our lecture, the first chapter, Indian economy on the eve of independence. In that chapter, we studied about how India got independence and it was struggling with the new economy that it had to rebuild from the scratch was left after the whole struggle. We introduced the chapter with the conditions in the agricultural sector, how the agricultural sector was affected due to the policies of settlement that were initiated by the Britishers, the zamindars, how they exploited the farmers and were majorly causing the damage to the land, use of cash crops which was killing the availability of food grains in the area, commercialization of agriculture, and as a result of that the deteriorating condition of the small farmers in the country. Today we'll start with the industrial sector, how it faces challenges. As we all know that India was basically an agricultural nation and industries were majorly comprised of the handicraft and the handmade goods that were produced in our country. Initially, the industries were blooming, but as the Britishers entered in, they started slowly and gradually destroying the Indian industrial sector. They did it by a systematic policy. They did it by following two steps. The first of their motive was to reduce the status of the Indian industries to a mere exporter of raw material rather than a final goods producing unit. And secondly, to create a new market in the Indian subcontinent which would ultimately consume the goods that were produced by the industries in Europe. Because of these policies of the Britishers, the condition of the Indian industry was continuously falling down. The major result of this situation was that uh, most of the people were rendered unemployed because the work that they used to do in a domestic manner, it was skilled, and the people who were initially engaged into producing cotton and weaving and spinning like activities for textile industries were forced to work in industries now, and if they declined the opportunity, they were left with no option. So most of the people who were producing their own livelihood were now unemployed, resulting into a huge number of unemployed population in our country. Secondly, the local handicraft, the local products, they were now killed completely, and new machine made products took their places, resulting into a complete damage to the Indian handicraft industry. The Britishers only encouraged the industries which were in their favor. For example, they did establish textile mills, they emphasized on the jute mills, they also incorporated with the Tata Iron and Steel Company that was to produce iron and steel for the industries. But the catch here was that most of that iron and steel was used in Europe, not for the domestic industries. Thus, the industries which were producing the goods which were useful for the British were the ones which were promoted, not the others. So basically, the capital goods industry, the products that were sold in the market and those that could produce profit for the Britishers were promoted. Another major drawback of the policies practiced by the Britishers in this duration was that most of these industries were in the hands of private institutions. Thus, a very limited scope was left for public sector industry. Moreover, they were not interested into establishing any public sector, and it was majorly confined to only power generations, ports, communications, railways, etc., postal services, like areas, which gave a little scope for people to choose the public sector. So we see how the industrial sector was affected. The next segment is of the foreign trade. This is one sector which the Britishers killed entirely because they wanted a complete control over the foreign trade from the Indian subcontinent. And initially, I'm sure all of us are aware that the trade was conducted right from the land areas. We all know about the Silk Route that extended till Central Asia and even till Europe. And we are also aware that India used to trade overseas as well with Egypt, with Myanmar, etc., foreign nations. But now the export was majorly done of the raw materials like cotton, wool, silk, sugar, indigo, jute, etc. And it started importing the finished consumer goods like cotton textiles, woolen clothes, and machineries like products. This destroyed the Indian foreign trade, and moreover, the trade was also confined by the British government to a very limited number of countries, which included Ceylon, China, Persia only, and even after the introduction of the Suez Canal, which was created to decrease the gap between Europe and Asia, it was also majorly controlled by the British that would only divert the Indian goods towards Britain only. This whole a complete diversion of the Indian foreign trade now resulted into a outgoing or an outflow of the perks or the benefits of this foreign trade. Earlier, when India was an exporter, the gold and silver, it would flow inside the nation. That's why we called it a golden bird or a sone ki chadiya in Hindi. But now, because we were just supplying the raw material and those were also on a very meager price, and over that we were now importing the finished goods for which we were paying silver and gold, which was an outflow of money, resulting into it was just depriving the nation, it was sucking the nation out of all the resources that were present then. So we see how the foreign trade was changing, which was ultimately going to reflect into the after independence condition of India on a global aspect. In the next lecture, we'll study the demographic condition, the occupational structure, and changes in the infrastructure uh, on the pre-independence timings. Till then, thank you so much.